People often say just open up, like it's the easiest thing in the world. Like vulnerability is simply a switch you can flip whenever you feel like it. But for some people, maybe for you, it has never been that simple. And if that resonates, I want you to stay with me for the next few minutes, because what I'm about to share might completely change the way you see yourself. Finding it hard to open up is one of the most misunderstood traits a person can have. Society tends to label it as coldness, as arrogance, or as emotional immaturity. But psychology tells a very different story. The truth is, people who struggle to open up are often some of the most emotionally intelligent, deeply feeling, and quietly powerful individuals in any room. They are not broken. They are not damaged. They are simply built differently. And that difference carries some genuinely rare qualities that most people will never develop. So if you find it hard to open up, this is not a video about fixing you. This is a video about understanding you. Let's talk about the 4 rare qualities you probably have. Number 1, you have an exceptionally deep inner world. People who find it difficult to open up are rarely empty on the inside. In fact, it is usually the opposite. Psychology shows that individuals who keep to themselves emotionally tend to have rich, complex inner lives, full of thoughts, observations, and feelings that most people never take the time to process. Research in introversion and emotional depth suggests that people who are selective about sharing tend to be high in a trait called absorption, meaning they experience life more intensely and reflect on it more thoroughly than the average person. Think about it this way. You are not someone who says whatever crosses your mind. You sit with your thoughts. You turn them over. You examine them from different angles before you ever consider letting someone else see them. That is not a deficit. That is depth. That is the kind of inner richness that produces great writers, thoughtful leaders, loyal friends, and people who actually understand themselves. The problem is, the world often mistakes your silence for emptiness. But those who are lucky enough to truly know you understand that behind that quiet exterior is an entire universe. Number 2, you have an unusually high standard for trust, and that protects you. Here is something important that rarely gets said. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world, and on some level, you have always known that. People who find it hard to open up are often wired with a heightened sensitivity to social risk. Psychology shows that this is frequently linked to past experiences where vulnerability was met with judgment, dismissal, or betrayal. Your nervous system learned, sometimes very early in life, that opening up carries real consequences. And so it built a gate, a filter, a protective mechanism that asks, before you share anything deep, is this person safe? Have they earned this? Research in attachment psychology tells us that selective self-disclosure is not avoidance. It is discernment. It means you do not hand your heart to just anyone. You watch, you observe, you wait to see if someone's actions match their words before you let them in. And yes, this can sometimes feel lonely. It can make relationships feel slower to build. But the relationships you do allow to go deep are almost always built on something real, something solid, something that lasts. While others are collecting connections, you are building bonds. Number 3, you feel things more deeply than you are able to express. This is perhaps the most misunderstood part of being someone who struggles to open up. People assume that because you do not share much, you do not feel much. But research in emotional processing suggests the exact opposite is often true. Many people who find verbal expression difficult experience what psychologists call emotional intensity. They feel things at a heightened level that words simply fail to capture. Think about a time you tried to explain something you were feeling and the words just did not come out right. Not because the feeling was not there, but because the feeling was too big, too layered, too complex to be reduced to a sentence. That is not emotional unavailability. That is emotional depth that language cannot always hold. You might express what you feel in other ways, through how carefully you listen to others, through the loyalty you show without announcement, through the small things you notice and remember that most people overlook. Feelings that cannot be spoken are often lived instead. And people who live their feelings quietly tend to show up in ways that matter most when it counts. Number 4, you possess a rare kind of self-reliance and inner strength. When you grow up, or simply exist, in a world where opening up has not always felt safe or easy, you develop something quietly powerful. You learn to sit with your own pain, to process your own fears, to find your own way through hard things without always needing someone to guide you. And while that can sometimes feel isolating, it also builds a kind of inner foundation that most people simply do not have. Psychology refers to this as self-sufficiency, and research consistently links it to resilience, the ability to recover from difficulty and keep moving. People who have learned to rely on their own inner resources tend to be more emotionally stable under pressure, more adaptable in uncertainty, and more capable of calm in situations that overwhelm others. You are not someone who falls apart every time life gets hard. You have a quiet toughness, not the loud, performative kind, but the kind that simply keeps going, the kind that finds a way, the kind that other people quietly rely on, even if they never say so. Now, none of this means you have to stay closed forever. Growth is always available to you, and learning to open up safely and selectively is one of the most beautiful things a person can do for themselves. But that journey begins not with shame about who you are, but with understanding, with recognizing that the very thing you have been told is your weakness is, in so many ways, quietly one of your greatest strengths. If you find it hard to open up, you are not cold. You are not broken. You are not too much or too little. You are someone with depth, with discernment, with feeling that runs deeper than words, and with a strength that was quietly built through every moment you had to hold yourself together. The right people, the ones who are patient, genuine, and worthy of you, will wait. They will not demand your walls come down all at once. They will simply sit with you until opening up starts to feel less like a risk and more like a relief. Take a moment today to acknowledge yourself, not in spite of how you are, but because of it. If this spoke to something in you, I would love for you to subscribe. Every week, we explore the psychology behind the traits and experiences that make you who you are. Not to label you, but to help you understand yourself a little more deeply. Because the more you understand yourself, the more gently and powerfully you can move through the world. I will see you in the next one.